This is Russell Burrell. This 17-year-old teen is facing charges for 3 counts of murder, 3 counts of discharging a firearm, and 1 count of conspiracy. On July 30th, 2012, Russell Burrell, who was armed with a fully loaded Glock, Quandle Husband, and Donovan Hall walked to the apartment of Michael Martin. Upon arriving at the house, the 3 met Martin and Colon, whom they were not expecting to see, and barked commands at them. As Martin and Colon headed toward the back of the apartment, Burrell fired the 9mm repeatedly at them and killed them both. After hearing the gunshots, Shamika Barros awoke from the couch in the living room and was also shot dead by Burrell. After committing the murder, the police apprehended the 3 and brought them in for trial. In court, the prosecutor narrated what went down at the crime scene to defend his claims.
Discussion among all of them about the fact that Michael Martin was soft. That is, that those present thought that Mr. Martin would be an easy target for a robbery. The group discussed the fact that Mr. Martin would likely have marijuana and money at the apartment. Bullets fired by Russell Burrell struck and killed both Michael Martin and Damian Colon. As Russell Burrell was firing at Mr. Martin and Mr. Colon in the kitchen, Shamika Barros woke up from the couch in the living room.
During the trial, families of the victims had the chance to confront Burrell for murdering their dear son.
You took the life of her son, my grandson, for what? You committed a horrible, evil act, murdering 3 precious persons, resulting from your sick soul.
Every day comes with the struggle of having to walk past his bedroom door. Another day that she'll pass without hearing his voice or seeing a smile that would light up a room. There's a void and a hole and an emptiness in my life that will never be filled.
At the end of their impact statement, the old woman had a special request for the judge.
I don't desire revenge, but I do ask for justice and to impose the maximum penalty as the law allows.
The Superior Court Justice Robert Kraus granted the request and sentenced Russell Burrell to 6 life sentences with additional 10 years for his role in the murder. Burrell had no expression on his face despite the multiple sentences, but the next teenager couldn't control her emotions before the juror's final verdict. This is Carly Gregg, who is awaiting trial for first-degree murder and attempted murder. The 15-year-old shot her mother dead and attempted to take her stepfather's life. In March 2024, Carly Gregg shot her mother, Ashley Smiley, who was also a math teacher in her school. This came after Ashley discovered that her 15-year-old was on drugs. Carly took a .357 Magnum and shot her mother dead in their home in Mississippi. After murdering her mother, Carly also lured her stepfather, Heath Smiley, pretending to be her mother by texting him to come home. When Heath arrived at the house, Carly shot him in the shoulder before he overpowered her. In court, Heath took the witness to narrate what he saw on getting home.
When you found Ashley, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen what you saw?
She was laying on her back and had her hands kind of across her, and a towel over her face.
Do you remember what color the towel was?
I do not.
When you saw her laying there, what's the very next thing that you did?
Checked her pulse, see, and kind of moved the towel, and then called 911.
And Heath, when you moved the towel, what did you see?
I knew she had been shot. There was blood around, but I don't really recall exactly where, somewhere in the right side of her face there.
The 15-year-old teen also called her friend to come over after murdering her mother so she could see a dead body. Carly's actions seemed intentional, but her reactions during the court hearing says otherwise.
Beginning on the first row. Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Count 3, we the jury find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes,
sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? All right. All three verdicts appear to be unanimous. The court will enroll the verdict. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with you having returned a verdict of guilty in count 1 and count 2 of the indictment, we'll now proceed to the sentencing phase of the trial. State of Mississippi may call its first witness.
Your Honor, the state has no witnesses. We would just ask that the court adopt the previous testimony that the jurors have heard, with the exception of we seek to introduce one photograph.
All right. State wishes to move to adopt an...
Eventually, the jury came to a verdict, and Judge Dewey Arthur proceeded to read out the sentence.
When all 12 of you reach and agree upon the defendant's sentence for first-degree murder, you shall return the sentence in one of the following forms. If you agree to sentence the defendant to life imprisonment in the custody of the Department of Corrections, your verdict will be as follows. Quote, count 1. Quote, as to count 1, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment. Close quotes. If you agree to sentence the defendant to life imprisonment in the custody of the Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole, your verdict will read as follows. Quote, as to count 1, we the jury sentence the defendant Carly Madison Gregg to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. Close quote. If you cannot agree to the sentence for the defendant as to first-degree murder, your verdict will be as follows. Quote, as to count 1, we the jury are unable to affix the punishment. Close quote. You, the jury, have found the defendant guilty of the crime of attempted murder in count 2. You must now decide whether to impose either a sentence of life imprisonment in the custody of the Department of Corrections or life imprisonment in the custody of the Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole. The court instructs the jury.
Carly Gregg was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The teenagers in the next case had different reactions during the trial. This is Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero, currently facing charges for murder and first-degree arson. The Lovebirds murdered Sierra's father after forbidding them from seeing each other. In April 2021, 16-year-old Sierra and 18-year-old Aaron stabbed Daniel Halseth 70 times in his home. Sierra and her boyfriend also dismembered her father's body and burned his home with the claims that he maltreated her. 3 days after the murder, the teens made a video and posted it on the internet.
I don't know what to say.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. After day 3 after murdering somebody.
Wow! Don't put that on the camera.
It was worth it.
And we had sex a lot today.
It was worth it. I got plenty of sex. So I was payment for doing it.
And no bleeding this time. We got through that. We overcame.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Shortly after making the video, the police officer captured Sierra and Aaron in Salt Lake City, and they were charged to court. During the trial, Daniel's mother was still in surprise and a devastated state due to the vicious murder of her son by her granddaughter.
Where did the evil come that was bred into a soul that murders their own father?
You're in a tough spot because your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
She's not my granddaughter.
At the sentencing, Sierra showed no sign of remorse and refused to take responsibility for her actions.
He locks me in place and starts pushing me and hitting me around.
Aaron, on the other hand, had a different request in his statement.
I ask for forgiveness as I get sentenced today, and I hope it brings you a little peace.
After hearing from the witnesses and the defendants, the judge proceeded with the sentence.
On count 1, you're going to be sentenced to 48 to 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. On count 2, you're going to be sentenced to life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 20 years has been served, plus a consecutive 24 to 60 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for the deadly weapon enhancement. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 1. On count 3, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 2. Count 4, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 3. Count 5, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 4. Count 6, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 5. Count 7, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 6. Count 8, you're going to be sentenced to 28 to 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to Count 7. Count 9, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, plus a consecutive 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections with deadly weapon enhancement. That's ordered to run concurrent to Count 8. You have 555 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 22 years.
Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero were both sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 22 years. This is Gavin Ramsey, who is facing charges for murder, burglary, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse in Medina County Court. The 17-year-old gruesomely murdered a 98-year-old Wadsworth woman, Margaret Douglas. In April 2018, Gavin Ramsey broke into Margaret's house and strangled her to death while sleeping. The 17-year-old took pictures and videos of the woman before and after murdering her. He also assaulted Margaret's corpse sexually and hid her body in a closet. Ramsey's actions left the victim's family in an emotional state as they expressed themselves in court.
Broke into her house, watched her sleeping, and took videos of her sleeping. He then held her against her will, hit her, and strangled her. And I believe that he planned to kill numerous people and used my aunt as a warm-up, so to speak, for those other killings. I find him to be pathetic and a coward, and someone that preyed on the most vulnerable person that he could find and attack her in her most vulnerable moment, in the middle of the night when she was asleep.
She loved life. She loved being alive. She often talked that she just couldn't wait until she turned 100.
Ramsey's mother also took the witness stand and addressed the court.
You can't make me believe that my decision wasn't the ultimate cause of all of this. To simply say I'm sorry to a victim's family, that's not enough. You can't undo their heartache. You can't undo our heartache.
Before the sentence, the 17-year-old had a word for the victim's family.
I'm so sorry for what I did. I constantly live in regret and shame because of it.
Ramsey showed a sign of remorse and apologized for his actions. The teen was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The defendants in the next case lashed out after the judge handed down the punishment. This is Lance Dyer, who is awaiting trial for carjacking and pointing a loaded weapon at a police officer. The 16-year-old teen allegedly stole a vehicle, which led to a police high-speed chase. Fortunately, the police officers caught up with Dyer and tried to stop him, but the teen pulled out a gun and pointed it at the officers. One of the officers shot him in the hand and got him arrested. In court, Judge Dennis Adkins expressed his feelings towards Dyer as he stood before him.
Anything more serious than someone pointing a loaded weapon at a police officer. You are lucky to be standing here in front of me today instead of being on the ground.
After expressing how displeased he was towards Dyer's action, the judge proceeded to hand down his punishment. Following the sentence, there was an outburst that drew all attention in the courtroom.
Is there anything further from the state?
Man, my brother got 13 years old. Stop saying that!
Dyer's sister busted out in court after hearing her brother's punishment, but even the teen's mother had something to say after the court session.
Still don't believe that he pointed a gun at a police officer because my son would be dead. You know, police officers don't shoot warning shots. They are trying to shoot to kill. So if you're trying to shoot to kill, then if my son pointed a 9mm at you twice, why isn't my son dead?
Despite the multiple reactions from the defendant's family, Judge Dennis sentenced Lance Dyer to 11 years behind bars. This is Gavin Smith, who is currently facing charges for 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and 1 count of using a firearm. The 16-year-old reportedly killed his family members, including his stepfather, Daniel Long, mother, Risa May, and his 2 brothers. In December 2020, Gavin Smith shot his family members at close range in their home while they were sleeping. 4 days after the murder, the bodies were discovered, and Gavin Smith was found hiding behind a dresser in a home in River Haven Road in Clendenin. During the court hearing, Daniel Long's parents had the opportunity to express themselves before the judge.
As the numbness took over my body, I tried to comprehend how someone could have so much hatred to eliminate 4 people, including his own flesh and blood, in such a violent and cowardly way, especially the 3-year-old Jamison, who loved Gavin unconditionally.
I watched the dynamics of the relationship with Gavin and his brother Jameson. I cannot comprehend how he could have taken his brother's life along with the lives of Daniel, Risa, and Gage.
It was an emotional moment in the court as the parents expressed their grief for the loss of their son. Before the sentencing, Gavin Smith also had something to tell the judge.
I'm begging you, if you do grant this alternate sentence Mr. Sullivan's talking about, you won't have an issue on me because I never was involved with it all until December of 2020.
The 16-year-old pleaded with the judge for leniency and awaited the sentence from the judge. This was the judge's response to the request.
Executed your mother and stepfather by shooting them in the head while they were asleep. Then you executed your two brothers by shooting them in the head, the youngest which was hiding under his crib. Your actions can only be described as an act of pure evil. Evil. I find that you have zero remorse for your actions. And in fact, the probation officer reports that he felt that you were justified in your actions.
After describing his actions as pure evil, the judge sentenced Gavin Smith to 3 life sentences with the possibility of parole after 15 years. This is Christian Dix, who is facing charges for second-degree murder and armed robbery.
I plead guilty.
The 19-year-old shot and killed a bicyclist at Quincy and Prospect Northeast. In August 2018, Christian Dix shot 23-year-old Stephanie Martinez, who was in Albuquerque to visit her friends. After shooting the 23-year-old multiple times, Dix robbed 2 giant gas stations in the area with his Mazda car. The Albuquerque police responded to the scene and apprehended 19-year-old Dix after a chase.
Stop, police! Stop! That's Christian Dix running away from officers last August. Stop! Right now! Get on the ground! Albuquerque police caught up with the 19-year-old in an open field on the west side near Paradise and Eagle Ranch, after officers say Dix led them on a short chase, then ditched his black Mazda. Do not move! Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Once he was in custody, Dix questioned why police were after him.
So I'm wondering, what am I being arrested for? Because I was never...
So all that stuff will be explained to you once the detective...
In court, Dix pleaded guilty to his crimes.
You won't be able to withdraw from this plea or change it. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
During the trial, Stephanie's father took the witness stand to express what he found amusing.
I don't know if he realizes what he did. For whatever reason, God only knows, I don't know.
Everyone in the courtroom wondered why Dix murdered the 23-year-old. But when Dix had the chance to speak, he addressed the victim's family.
I'd just like to say that I am deeply sorry to the family for what I've done.
She'd give you her last dollar in her pocket if that's all she had.
The judge sentenced the teen to 26 years in prison.